Hi, my name is Tommy Bugg, and this is Uncommon.
Uncommon is a production by Neuralle, an agency that helps both brands and talent tell their story. To learn more, just visit neuralle.com. That's neuralle.com. My guest this week, Tommy Bugg, co-founder, CEO of ZOOZ Group. Thanks for coming in, mate. We're having a lovely chat beforehand. I've got to ask, though, does your mum still make those wonderful eclairs for you to this day?
You've done your research. No, absolute pleasure to be on. I love this kind of setup, and it's great to connect with people in a similar place, similar industry and space. So the chocolate eclairs, they haven't been made for a while. When she found out I was selling them at school, she probably stopped making them.
I had a similar thing, actually. My mum, my family's got this sort of Anglo-European background. My dad's Greek, mum's sort of English, and mum's version of a fancy sort of lunch would be sandwiches, salami, like mozzarella, rocket, stuff like that, back when I was in year 7. And I noticed that people would always ask, what's that?
Yeah.
And so I started getting her to make extra sandwiches. And I think at the peak I got to 3 sandwiches, and I'd get her to just stuff it full of things. And then I'd get them cut in half and sell those sandwiches, and then use that money to go buy lunch from the tuck shop.
It's smart. It's the way. It's an entrepreneurial way. But yeah, I had people at school as well that would bring, kind of eskies and fill them up with cans of Coke and sell them for. Yeah. So one of my mates used to sell them for $1, and then 3 months later, one of my other mates started selling for 90 cents. So there was the competitive market at school. But that was in year 7. And
some old schoolmates will listen to this and remember a guy called Channy, and his parents owned a milk bar, and he would basically rack a 24-pack of Coca-Cola, and he'd sell that from outside of his locker. So you knew, he'd always just be hanging around the locker in high school, and you just come up to him and it'd be $1 for this, or he'd expand to caramello koalas or something like that.
No, it's good. It's entrepreneur, it's purest form. So it's I'm just very lucky I got exposed to it at a very early age.
So as a kid, what do you reckon is your earliest inception moment? What do you remember first?
In regards to in general, or
just life? Yeah.
Probably sport. I mean, I played basketball and football at a very young age, around kind of 4 and 5. My grandpa played footy. My dad was really sporty when he was younger. But, dad's always kind of owned his own business as well. So a lot of flexibility with what he did. So I spent a lot of time with him when I was younger. So I guess, earliest memories are really family orientated and sport.
What type of business did your dad run?
He runs a concrete sealer manufacturing business. So
really,
he's done that, but he's done a bunch of different things along his time. Mum was doing dancing. She used to do ballroom dancing. She still does it now for some debs and whatnot. But she owned her own business doing dancing. So
dance classes.
Dance classes, yeah. Dance classes. Teaching people for their weddings and whatnot as well. So I've kind of always had that around me that's motivated me, or I guess broadened my perspective on how the business works.
Did you do much work with your dad as a kid? Was that an environment you could do it in?
Yeah, I mean, it probably started from mowing lawns. So I used to get, what did I get? I reckon it was $50 for 4 or 5 hours.
It's decent.
So back then it was good. It would set you up for the canteen at lunch, and then I kind of molded into school holidays. Would always go down to the factory and help him kind of wherever I could be, and just be his little right hand man. So. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I love that. It probably taught me, a lot of hard work, and it was, it was hard. It was gritty work,
it's
in factories and whatnot. So that's kind of my earliest memories there.
My dad had a printing factory, and he still to this day has he had some skin condition on his hand, or no, it wasn't a skin condition. It would just be a sensitivity in his hands where he'd feel the cold or heat more than most, because when you're working in that sort of factory, you get so much ink all over your hands, you're just constantly washing them, with Solvol or whatever. But for me, my memory as a kid was the smell of fresh paper. I don't know if you've ever smelt really warm fresh paper from a big printer, but it was something like. Did you ever have anything like that working in the factory?
It's a smell?
Yeah, a smell.
The solvent side of things resonates. Because that's what you would use to clean the sealer if you did get on your hands, or clean your hands if you had paint on or whatnot. So probably that solvent smell. It's very unique, kind of strong smell.
It is, yeah. So when you say sealer, so basically your dad would go into a place where there was concrete flooring or something like that, and they just essentially paint something that became like a resistant seal.
Put a sealer across the top of it to protect it. Anti-slip. They'd even do different designs and whatnot as well. So he's been doing that for 20 odd years now. So
nice. So your early studies, I think from memory, you're at Caulfield Grammar. You get drafted as an underage player to GWS. I think at the time you were known as one of the best nigglers in the competition. Had about 8 years across GWS, Carlton and Melbourne, finishing 2019. If you think about that whole period of time, that was really your first job out of school. What's, in hindsight, was the biggest principle or lesson you learnt from those sort of organisations?
It's an interesting one because I think it's a journey of learning. I think school footy, I worked very hard as a junior. And I played some really good footy as a junior, especially at Caulfield. Captained the team. Probably, if I look back, there's been a lot of fun memories and a lot of really good memories, but school footy, especially year 12, because I was already drafted, you didn't have to play Vic Country, regional.
Oh, really? Okay.
And you didn't have to play any representation footy. So, I went from year 11, and it's got this real kind of college feeling to it where you got, it's real brothers there where, you go to school, you're studying with them, you play on Friday afternoon. So you've got a really good sense of, really close relationship. And year 11, it was really good. I was building that. But then, you get kind of yanked out of the team and you have to go play, as good as it was playing, representative footy. But it made me miss kind of that whole season and seeing what we could have achieved. And then year 12, I was drafted I think the end of year 11 was when I got drafted or found out. So then in year 12, obviously, you don't play those representation teams because you're already drafted. So it's kept there for a spot for someone who wants to get drafted. So, so my best memories are definitely year 12 because I got to spend the whole time there and I captained the team and I had some really, really good, strong relationships with the guys that were, that got me to the school, and then also the guys that I'd, became friends with as well. And then, you go to Sydney and you live away from home for, 5 years and play at, it's a startup club with a lot of guys that I grew up with. It definitely... After being at Melbourne and Carlton, you see it's definitely a different feeling than what those AFL clubs are. But the one thing I'm grateful for that Giants was a real family club. They really hosted and looked after our families and our parents and our sisters and brothers and partners and whatnot. So I think the biggest learning experience, because I try to reflect as much as I can. And recently, from a footy sense, the reflection was my years at Melbourne. I really learnt from the years at Giants. I was very naturally a fit person. So, if I could, I think when I got to Melbourne, I really had to earn my games. It wasn't just gifted it, where, the Giants, I felt like a lot of us guys would, we probably wouldn't have played if we were at other teams, even though we were really talented young kids. We're very skinny. I went to Giants at 69 kilos. So I was like a string bean. But, but yeah, I think the biggest learning out there is just the work ethic when I got to Melbourne. And then, I guess post-footy, like the biggest learnings I've had is just the life skills you learn, that, the leadership skills, the dealing with so many different personalities, hard work, sacrifice, the competitive side of it. A lot of lessons I took from there that I use now that I'm really, really grateful for.
I would have assumed that when you're in that environment and when people talk about leadership, it's really just confidence, being able to speak with confidence, because football clubs are intense environments. It's very unusual in comparison to other groups, whether it's a corporate group or whatever. So I would assume that would be one of the big things that you'd learn and bring into what you did afterwards. Yeah,
I think belief. There's confidence, there's belief. I think what I did was, I watch a lot of other sports. One of my biggest kind of inspirations is Conor McGregor. He obviously does the work, and then he's very out there or very confident or cocky in his predictions. But I think what I learned from him was, I was very out there, and I would, I had a couple of things where on Instagram where I called out a player, or, I was a bit out there, and some people would call me, cocky or whatnot. But what I learned from him was if I was doing the work, it really gave me that belief to kind of do whatever I want and just be me.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So I think belief, what I learned from that experience was if I put the work in, then I'm just going to be me, and I just believe inside, where I'm going to get to. So
yeah, I think it's funny how the culture in AFL land is sometimes you can't put that sort of stuff out there on social media, but I always found that kind of funny. I feel like if I was a player, I'd kind of be like that as well.
Yeah, it's a weird one because you're in a team sport. It does make it difficult.
Yeah.
But because I was watching a lot of individual sports, that's where the conflict came. Sorry, but you look back, you look now, and there's players that do it, and I think it's good for the game. I think we should encourage people to be themselves, whether that's people speaking out, or people being arrogant, or people being humble, whatever that is. There's no right or wrong. So, when I see it now these days, it's good to see. It's just authentic, and I think there should be more of it. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I think doing things that are a little bit above the norm and nice. I was a client of ours who I still work for with a little bit of contracting is CoinJar. They just sponsored Melbourne, and that was seen as very out there in the last week when they announced it. I was on with Neil Mitchell the other day, and he was like giving me shit for it, essentially. But I like that. I like it when clubs do that. I like it when players do that. Like, I feel like it was Sean McKernan or someone who spoke about the fact that when you're in that footy environment, everyone speaks in such, like, you're so media trained, you're so enclosed, you it's not real a lot of the time. And I find that when there's a bit of pizzazz about the way that people do things, it makes it more exciting. Yeah, well, you see it in celebrations because guys are so jacked up on adrenaline. You'll just see them act naturally. So they might celebrate or, go a bit far on some celebrations. But that's just what it is. And I think it's as authentic as it gets, and it's what makes our game great. We've got so many different people, so many different personalities. Why wouldn't we encourage people to do that? Now, ZOOZ Group, I know when you were getting into this, you had some friends reach out. No doubt you would have picked up some things working with the management or agent team, essentially. What was the sort of aha moment when you realised this was a business and not just giving advice to mates? Because we had a similar thing in that we ran a podcast. We had someone ask us about, hey, how do you do a podcast, blah, blah, blah. But then it kept happening. Yeah. But no one would do anything about it. And I thought, you know what, fuck this. We're just going to say, we'll do it for you. We'll charge you this much extra than it costs. And it sort of just spun away from there. When was that moment for you? Yeah, we obviously started helping out a friend at the start, and then connected with my other partner now that's had a little bit of had a lot of experience in advertising and marketing, and I guess we just saw the gap. We started reaching out. We put together obviously a blueprint of what we wanted to achieve or what our service was going to be, and then started reaching out to different influencers at the time or different talent at the time. And this is 2.5, 3 years ago, so it's probably a lot less competition back then as well, and the industry was a lot more immature. And then just getting hits back from different influencers, and we flew one out from New South Wales at the time, and she's still with us now, and she's she's really, really good and gets it, and she's a bit of an OG. And she come across and, our pitch went really well, and she was really excited, and she gave us a chance at the time. And, we've got such good feedback from her now. But I think, probably when she said, I'm happy to come on exclusive and I want to sign with you guys and see, what we can do together. To that point was, it went from we're just helping out a friend to this is a person that I had no relationship with, but now is trusting us with their career. So okay, so it's when, and it's I guess a similar thing. It's when a total stranger who you haven't met, not a family, not an acquaintance of family or friends or whatever, is not indirectly paying you or putting their faith in you to work with you, essentially. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's probably the first one to think, hey, we've got like something special here. But I think, to have the actual aha moment where it's like we've got a really, really good business is more, we won a Deloitte Tech Fast 50 award, which recognises fastest growing technology companies in Australia. That was a big moment. And then I guess just the constant signings of big name talent. When we launched in America, another big moment for ZOOZ Group. And yeah, I think, there's just these kind of different levels that you keep hitting. And then, you set your bar a little bit higher and then you hit that and the bar gets set a little bit higher. So I think for me, it's probably never going to feel like that just because I'm just, I'm really passionate about getting the most out of myself. So it's always going to feel like, although I'm really happy with
where I'm at, I'm always going to be wanting to challenge myself even more.
Yeah, but that's why you're in business. It's like an element of personality. You're sort of always driven to improve things. I've got to ask, why the name ZOOZ Group?
Yeah, it just comes from some language. We have a number of different words me and my close friends use. And then, this was just one of them. It was really unique and it was us. So we just decided to go with that and it really grew. And, it's kind of iconic, I guess, in regards to when you look at the other names that are out there.
Yeah, because I think you said in one interview that Jake Melsham or someone at the club would be like, ZOOZ.
Yeah, you'd walk in and it was, it come probably to the detriment at times for my footy because I couldn't walk into a room without someone yelling out that. But again, Jake, he's a funny guy and that's kind of what the footy culture is. But yeah, that's what I mean. It's in like you get noticed for that and. That's what we started getting noticed for, and it's a very, very unique name.
Yeah, so it's a piece of lingo that you had amongst mates, and then you were like, okay, well, I might just use this. I mean, it works. Names are hard, and it stands out.
Yeah,
it definitely stands out.
Yeah.
So ZOOZ Group today. So you've been in the talent management business since 2018. I'm sure this number's not correct because it's always, I know from experience, changing on the website. But from what I counted, about 78 creators at the moment, and obviously a developing social media business as well. So I guess the thing that you guys do that I guess is similar to us is you're on both sides of the equation, which I really respect, is that you're both working with brands on social campaigns, but also, working with talent on their own campaigns. What do you see as sort of your competitive advantage in the market? What's unique about ZOOZ?
Yeah, we've got a number of creators through here and the US. I think, the most important thing for us is we've got a range of exclusive and non-exclusive talent, meaning we can work with, creators in any way, any which way. And, important, I think the biggest thing for us is the personalized nature. So it doesn't matter how big ZOOZ gets, myself and the agents are accessible and, we're never going to overpopulate what we have without the right staff or service. So I think for me, it comes down to having that personalized nature, and we've had that since day one. So if there has been any issues, the ability to just pick up the phone and have a chat to me and work through together, I think's been a really big advantage. And it's created a really great relationship between me and the talent that we have.
Yeah.
We're also doing, building our own proprietary technology to help us identify talent. So, that I guess that gives us a competitive advantage as we continue to scale. But yeah, like you said at the start, the ecosystem between the talent and the brands. We first started with the talent, because at the time we identified that there wasn't a service in the market that was ethical and transparent.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I just think there was no ethical service at all that what we could find, and that's kind of the feedback we were getting from my friends at the time and people in the market. So we basically put together something that was going to offer that offer transparency, so there was no question about that.
I think as well the fact that you've got background in being a talent yourself is an advantage. That was
key because, for me, although my management was really, really good when I played footy, I had two different managers and they were both great. It was just, there was still things that were lacking off that service, and it was kind of that 360-degree approach. So that's what we offer to our talent now. We offer, not just, I guess, deal negotiation. We offer a range of things to do with their finances, their accounting, their tax, any legal obligations they have, offering either services there that can help them or referring them to partners that we use ourselves. Has been a big one. But yeah, again, back to the ecosystem. First started as a talent, offering a great service there, but quickly realized that there's two parts to that ecosystem, and it's the brand on the other side that that are spending the money, and they we want to offer value to them because we don't want to do one-off deals where we're trying to get the highest rates possible. We want to be compensated for the work for the talent that's it's getting done, because there is a lot of work from the talent point of view that people probably don't see. We want to offer a lot of value to the brands so they come back and spend, and they're a long-term partner, not just a one-off a one-off campaign.
Yeah, I really respect that. I think if actually I think about it, you guys are probably one of the first independent agencies that went after the talent influencer route in Australia. There was a few others. Like we've interviewed Jen Day, who focuses on day management. They've got, a niche selection. I think she's got about 20 creators, and she only focuses on that. And she's also got a new company called Next of Kin, which is all about family management, essentially. But there was day management, yourself, and then when I can't really think of many others. There's some new ones like Born Bread and Amplify that have got into the TikTok space. But apart from that, it was all the classic like WME, IMG, Chic, all those agencies which are like multi-agent networks.
Yeah.
They're international. They're big corporations owned by some parent company. They're not an independent. So I think that was the thing that I noticed about you guys is that independence that you have as an agency as being a real competitive advantage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to Jen as well, she's done a terrific job.
Amazing.
She's got a great, really great reputation. I know Jen, she works really hard, and, what she's been able to create is definitely admirable. And yeah, I think, it's funny you talk about other agencies. We're talking about it off air before, but the US compared to Australia. So
different.
Yeah, the ability to, collaborate with other agencies in the States of what, I found has been really helpful and I guess really refreshing because, at the end of the day, we're there to provide for the talent. So although there's, you have competitors, you can also work together with your agency or your competitors, to provide more value for talent. So, in the States, we've got joint venture deals with different agencies, where we can come together and pitch different jobs for each other's talent. In Australia, that doesn't really happen. I don't know why. I don't know if it's different or not. But I mean, from my point of view, always open to that conversation, whether it's with someone that's we're aligned with or a competitor. You kind of never know what can come from anything. So always keen to have conversations and like ourselves, we're in this similar space as well. But the ability to bounce ideas off each other and learn, continue to learn is something that I think holds myself in good stead.
Yeah, I think what you say before, it's a weird thing in Australia. I think a lot of old school agencies get scared about doing stuff together, which I think is a naive way to go about it. I think that environment of the US is probably, like if it's a win-win, you shouldn't be worried about things, people leaving or, your efforts should be focused on purely the talent and the brand and maximizing everything for them. And I guess that was one of the things I was curious about is, what do you see as the job to be done for ZOOZ Group in your little sphere of the world? And that may differ for talent and brands. Do you think it's like talent maximize their opportunity while they can in this space? And for brands, is it let's maximize sales awareness or something else in particular? How do you think about those two?
I think from the talent point of view, obviously, them, the lifespan is the unknown. So making sure they're maximizing their opportunity and commercializing as much as possible, but also setting themselves up for something outside or after their influencing career. So whenever that may be. So, we're always promoting or encouraging our talent to do things outside, not necessarily taking away from what they're currently doing, but, having a really good think about what is after.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for so long even before kind of we started, talent were doing things underpaid, undervalued. So, what we wanted to do was make sure that they really understand what their value is and make sure we, execute on that and make sure they get paid for their services. So I think from our point of view, we do a really good job of that, and that's why our talent are really happy. And then, also from the brand point of view, I guess our biggest feedback from brands is that they have a great experience with ZOOZ. So whether or not, things don't always go perfect, but the one thing they're guaranteed, is a high level of communication and us helping with the problem solving if there becomes a problem. That doesn't happen often, but when it does, we always make sure we're front of mind there and we don't hide from that. And that's that's our number one kind of feedback from brands, that we offer a great experience, and then also value too. So I think sometimes from a talent point of view or a talent agency point of view, you can start demanding the highest rates possible. But if you continue to do that, the brand isn't always going to see value or return on their investment. So it's just finding that happy medium where talent gets paid for their service, brand's happy, get value, have a great experience, come back, long-term partnerships on both sides.
You. Yes, you. Are you intrigued by this episode? If so, go to our footer on the website, Neuralle.com, Neuralle.com. We're going to give you an insight. Each week it's going to be on business, marketing, or a topic that we covered in the episode. At all, we'd love your support and it would help us in developing the intellect around this series. But without going on too much longer, let's get back into this episode.
Obviously, you've had 3 years now. You're an indirect outsider in a way, in that, you know, you've had the experience as a customer being a talent, and now you've come into this space and you're offering a service as an independent agency. Now you're on both sides of the equation. I guess I'm curious, what's been the best and worst thing about dealing with both sides?
The best
tough place to be.
Yeah, the best thing on the talent side of things is having everything done for you. You know, not really having, as long as you trust. You know, I trusted my management and had a really good relationship with them, and you know, our talent, it's very similar. So I think from that point of view, just not having to handle with admin or not having to handle with everything, and trusting that everything's taken care of. The worst thing as a talent myself. I can't really think of too many things. I mean, at the time I was, you know, super young, and I was just pretty grateful to have everything catered for. And then I guess on the other side of the agency side of things, the best thing for me working with talent is just, I guess, the creative side of it. You know, you're working with so many cool individuals, so many young people that they just kind of, you know, they're so creative in different angles. It's not just so, it's not just one dimensional. There's, you know, people doing podcasts, people doing video casts, people doing, you know, influencer stuff, events. We've got people over in the, even if, you know, not with us, but you look at Jake Paul and what he's doing with the boxing stuff. It's just a whole different dimension. So what I love to do is connect with people and see how they think. And really just, I guess, just challenge the status quo in a sense. And then the worst thing, there's not too many bad things, but there's a lot of different personalities. So for me, again, you know, back to football, I've dealt with a lot of different personalities. So it's been really, it's held me in really good stead, but I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. I would just say it's something that, you know, that
you have
is
to
challenging sometimes.
Yeah, you have to learn to deal with. I guess I'm curious when you mentioned Jake Paul before and you think about the creators, because I really respect, you know, people can hate on the Paul brothers, but they are amazing marketers and salesmen. You know, the whole Triller thing, the fact that Logan is fighting Floyd Mayweather is just ridiculous to me. Like that we're in this era where a YouTuber becomes an exhibition boxer and is probably going to make tens of millions of dollars just from fighting this guy. Who are the people that you are really fascinated by as talent? And it could be someone that you're managing, but someone that you're not managing, and it doesn't have to be any reason why. But I guess I'm curious, who are you fascinated by the most at the moment? Yeah,
it's, you know, Jake and Logan. Firstly, they have done things really differently, but again, those guys, probably them two. Yeah. Like, to be honest, it's them two. It's, you know, I had the pleasure of, you know, connecting with them really, really briefly in Coachella just after I finished football, and it was pretty much just a high and by conversation. But they don't surprise me. What they do is they inspire me, but they also amaze me with how much knowledge they have of the internet. You know,
they're so clued in.
Yeah, they really know, like, everything from Jake's point of view. You know, it's just, even though it looks so, you know, it is very authentic what he does, I feel like, but it's very strategic. And just the way he can push and pull levers is just phenomenal. And it's what's, you know, it just reinforces how powerful social media is. The fact that, like you said, YouTubers can be boxing, you know, one of the greatest of all time. And then, you know, you've got him calling out Conor McGregor, who's one of the greatest of all time in the MMA space, is crazy. But again, it's going to continue to happen because there's so much attention, and that's what social media is. It's attention.
But also there's anything is possible with the internet. And that's the thing that I've learned. And like, Logan is the one who really fascinates me. I think what he did with NFTs, the Pokemon cards, all that stuff, to me blew my mind away as to what was possible. And I remember when it was happening, I was speaking to creators, because we've got some creators who have sort of posts that are like the most liked post in Australia on TikTok and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's something here, and I've said the idea of NFTs to a few of them for a while now, and just experimenting with this sort of stuff, and to think a bit bigger. And I guess those two, and particularly Logan, helps with that, I think, for sure.
Yeah, the thing with Logan that impresses me is just how he kind of transformed his image. He went from that vlogger to, that YouTuber to now he's just got, he's got the podcast with Impulsive, but he's almost like, it went for those guys I don't know, they've been they've got a lot of haters, but the one thing I feel with Logan now is he's got a lot of supporters.
I think
that love him.
Well, I couldn't stand Logan. Like, I think about Logan went from that guy who filmed someone who hung themselves in Japan to just like a dude that you can't really. I find it hard to hate him now.
Yeah,
he's actually quite aware of himself and quite switched on.
Yeah,
and like I said, 2 years ago I would have said, "Oh, fuck that Logan Paul guy," but a year later, I was watching the Impulsive show. I was watching his vlogs. Like, I actually thought he was very, very smart.
Yeah, no, his Impulsive vlogs are really informative. He does it with some of the biggest, I guess, creators and celebrities episodes in the world. But yeah, I mean, those guys, again, like, I've just got nothing but love for what they've done in the space. They've kind of paved the way for all these other influencers that are coming along now. So, just impressive.
When it comes to prospecting talent, I think that you said to me that's still one of the things that you're involved in is sort of talent acquisition. I can imagine you and the other co-founders would be involved really on that talent acquisition and sales side of things. How do you think about that process? Because I know I went through a stage where for me it was all about just finding fucking new people on TikTok and checking their stats and what's their engagement rate and all that sort of stuff. But you're in a position now where you've been doing that for probably a couple of years and you've learnt the ins and outs, and you also have a big roster. So you have to be quite selective, let's say, about who you bring on, and there has to be something about them. What does your process look like in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when I started, it was very, very manual. So you'd go on YouTube, you'd go on Instagram, you'd, scout through kind of talent and their content and see if they would generate, at the end of the day, was it, can we offer a value to them? Can our brands that we're working with, will they work with this talent? And then also, can the talent generate revenue, and is the effort versus reward there? So, I mean, very, very manual at the start. And I think, I don't know if I mentioned it already, but off air, I mentioned it in terms of the technology stuff. So, we're building technology that helps us, identify talent based off analytics. So, it's very automated what we do now in terms of the talent stuff. But it's still, again, it's got to be super personal when more from the data point of view is automated, but then, the reaching out process is still the same. And I think it will still be the same for a long period of time, just because that face-to-face connection and when you catch up with someone, just getting that vibe and making sure that, they kind of like what they're about to get involved in. I think that's going to be there for a long period of time still.
Do you guys have like high watermarks on a certain indicator that would make you approach someone? Is it an engagement rate? Is it a follower rate? Is it views or impressions? How do you think about that? Because that's the trickiest part.
It is. I guess without giving away too many trade secrets, obviously the following is a big one, but what I'm seeing from brands now is that it's the engagement side of things. So it's I guess it's probably it's not a secret, but the engagement side of things is obviously a key indicator, because brands that want to spend, they want their the followers to be engaging with the influencer.
Yeah, I think when I first started, for me it was the cliche case of okay, does this person have a certain amount of followers or whatever it may be? And then you start to get into more and more brand campaigns and you realize they don't give a fuck about that. They just want to know how many views are they getting, what's the engagement rate, is it worth it?
Yeah. Yeah, and what you'll
find is...
Where's
the split of the audience as well?
Yeah. What you'll find is, brands usually know what they want. From our point of view, we work on the creative for brands, occasionally, but, most brands come in and know exactly what they want. So it's just about facilitating that and making sure that, we hit those KPIs that they're after.
Yeah.
Some it's ROI, some it's just, reach. So
conversely with brands, how's your go-to-market changed from the beginning to now? Like I caught up with Jen recently, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And she was telling me about how when she first started out, it was all about, she was managing these Instagram creators, and 10% was like inbound and 90% was outbound activity. But now it's like 90% inbound and 10% inbound. Like that's a general thing when a market gets more mature. So a lot of brands come to her now. Obviously, she's going to reach out to brands that she feels that there's some sort of alignment.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting to hear that insight around the change in perception from brands with influencers. So I guess when you first started out, do you feel that it was somewhat similar, or how did you go about interacting with brands?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's too different. If anything, I'd probably say it was a little bit more in reach versus when we first started, and a little less outreach, because again there was less competition. So I felt like the influencers we got at the time, we had a system where the brands would reach out to the influencer, but would reach out to us.
Yeah.
And now what I'm finding is obviously more competition, but I guess we put a heavy focus on outreach. So we're continually every single week. The team works so hard on finding new brands that are spending in the e-commerce space or that have budget in the digital space.
But also as you scale as well, because when you first started out, it was all you doing sales and talent acquisition, and now you've got a whole team.
Yeah.
You go from being more on the defensive to being more on the offensive. You've got this roster now.
Yeah.
You've got way better creative capabilities internally, and you can go to brands and start to chat to them more about that.
That's a very good point. Yeah, obviously when we started, we had no staff. We're doing everything ourselves. Now we've obviously built a really, really special team. I couldn't be more excited with the people we have on board. And that's, one thing I've learned. Again, I think I said at the start, having great people and having great staff that, emulate the same values that I hold and, that we want to continue to hold as we grow, which is that personalized nature, and that hardworking kind of accessible trait as well. I think it's been really good. But yeah, again, teams, a really, really special team. So I'm really, really proud of them.
So the product expansion, we know about the US. I know you're eyeing off Asia as well. I think in one of the interviews you may have mentioned that. You mentioned before about this development of technology internally. I guess I'm curious in terms of tracks that you're going to go down, why expand horizontally, let's say, across geographies versus vertically across industries? I was almost surprised about you guys going to the US first as opposed to just getting into like managing footy talent. Like, do you have that in your mind in the long term? Or is it so regulated and complex and dull that it's not something that you consider?
No, not at all. We've done some, we've completed some trial campaigns with footy players, and there's definitely opportunity there. And we work with some direct talent ourselves and with the agents, and then we also work with a large agency that manage majority of the talent here in Melbourne. But I guess what I see is the opportunity, what I feel like is still in that influencer space. It's not to say we're not going to delve into different industries like football or music or whatnot. But I just think, for us, we're doing what we're doing really, really well. And, we felt like the proof of concept, we really completed that. And then you look at the US and the market's 50 plus times bigger. You look at the UK again, 50 plus times bigger. So, I guess scaling. And I guess our vision to be, global and not just be here in Australia is important too, because if you see America and the UK as being, a lot bigger markets, a lot bigger spend, more talent, more brands, then, we just felt like we could scale a lot quicker than here.
That makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, there's way more opportunity in the US and Europe.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about delving into other industries, our vision was more, let's get into the US, let's scale there, and then let's looking at US sports rather than Australian sports. Again, just having kind of that global vision and having that kind of bigger picture vision rather than kind of, just being here in Australia and just kind of having that. I wouldn't say closed mind. I just feel like Australia is very small in comparison to the rest of the world. So.
It is. It's very enclosed.
Yeah.
We are the lucky country. Life is easy. Things, the top 4 companies in Australia listed on our stock exchange are the banks. Like it's not... it's not as innovative and exciting as, say, perhaps the US market.
Yeah, that's what's exciting about the US. Looking at going back there in about a month's time, and the one thing, I've been to America a bunch of times, but the one thing that happens when I go there and come back is it really puts things in perspective of how small Australia is. It's great though, you come back here and feel so lucky that we're such a safe country. But
It's a beautiful place, but when it comes to business, when it comes to
business and career and opportunity, if anyone that hasn't been to the US at some point, I'd highly recommend getting there.
So if you go over to the US, you'll probably get your jab before. You can probably get your jab over there before you get it here.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the regulations are, but I'm sure if I have to have it,
We've had some people that we know in radio that have gone over for a gig, and on the second day they were able to get their Pfizer vax or Moderna. I don't know who. What's the one that we're meant to be getting here? Not AstraZeneca. Because people are freaking out about blood clotting or whatever. But yeah, you can go over there and you can get your jab within a day.
Yeah.
Just book it in. So,
yeah, I know. I haven't given too much thought to it.
Do you have like a particular affinity for anywhere in the US? Do you prefer East Coast, West Coast, the South?
I love LA. I love LA.
You love LA?
Yeah, I love LA.
Why is that?
I've just been there a bunch of times. I feel like it's really cool. There's in terms of just everyone goes to LA to accomplish something. I feel like they go there with a real goal. So everyone there is really driven. It's fun, it's like a theme park for adults. There's clubs, there's people we've got some really good relationships there. I know some musicians over there. So the influencers over there, it's just really cool. I guess from my point of view, it's kind of like, what you see in movies and whatnot. So it's fun in LA. But I mean, New York's got it as well. It's just LA is like a lot more beachier and hotter.
Do you have like a particular area you like hanging about?
West Hollywood's kind of like the central place. I think West Hollywood's cool. Like Beverly Hills we've got an office in Beverly Hills, so that's a really cool space there. But I think West Hollywood's kind of where where everything's happening.
Okay. Have you, out of interest, you've spoken to your team? You obviously speak to your team daily. I think you mentioned that your US guy had just come over and got out of quarantine or something like that. What's been the report from them about what things have been like in the last year over there? Yeah.
US GM has just got back. He 2 weeks of quarantine in Sydney, and he just flew back to Melbourne today. So spent some time with him this morning, and then I'm going to go see him after this. But they said it was really tough. I mean, really, really tough over kind of last year. But again, everything's opening up now. I think he just told me this morning that masks aren't on as of next week or maybe 2 weeks.
Wow.
And they're pretty much back to normal. So. Wow. I mean, it's good timing considering I'll probably be over there in a month's time, and I definitely don't want to quarantine. But yeah, he said it was really tough. Like, I mean, all our staff worked remotely from home, so they didn't work from the office or anything like that, and haven't for probably a year now, or just over a year.
So the other, I guess, question I have around product is you've got this internal product that you use for analytics of talent. Do you think in future you would consider selling that to other agencies or brands? Because it's quite a fragmented market in, you've got all these different tools, even just in the TikTok space. I think I counted the other day, there was 3 or 4 different tools, and a lot of them are hit and miss. We use 2 just for TikTok because one does one thing and one does another. How have you thought about that technology product, particularly because it would offer immense scale?
It would, we've definitely thought about it. We have the mindset about technology since day one, but now we've built it to a point where we use it to our advantage. So, we definitely don't want to be giving it to our competitors to give them an advantage. So for us, obviously now we're using it internally and we continue, but, it's market changes all the time. So it just depends, what the next 6, 12, 24 months looks like. But there's definitely the option in future to either sell or, set up a subscription model where brands or talent can use, what we're doing at the moment. But the really cool thing about what we're building is obviously we own it and we're building it, but we can customize it to exactly what we want.
Yeah, that is a good point. And it's tough when you are an agency as well to then really would bastardize what you guys are doing essentially if you were to sell it to other people. So I can definitely see that. I'm curious, like I really am fascinated by what people like Gary Vee have done in the space in terms of the talent game. I've tried to read as much as I can around this space. There's the guy who founded CAA, which was sort of the agency in LA in the 90s and early 2000s. Are there particular leaders that you look to in this space that you really respect at all?
Definitely respect all those guys that have, been there and done it, or been there and, built an agency. But I find my inspiration from people in different industries because I like to just innovation in general. So, you look at guys like, Gary Vee's a perfect one. He definitely innovates. You look at guys like Elon Musk, and then in the sports world, you look at guys like Connor. You look at who's some other ones I can't think of. Even like Mark Zuckerberg and stuff. You just look at. I just get different inspiration off different people, and then try to relate it back to what we're doing and see if I can get a different spin on things. But I guess for anyone in the actual industry, not really. There's not kind of one person that I look at and go like, wow.
It's not really an industry that's been innovated at, has it?
Not really until recently. There's definitely some agencies in America that do it really well, and some kind of boutique agencies that do it well. But there's no one really combining that technology with the talent and the brand side. So,
are there particular agencies you've noticed in the US that you really like?
Yeah, there's a few that do it. I don't really want to give them a plug, but I'm constantly looking at what other people are doing in the industry. Even here in Australia, I'm looking at people pivot. 12 months ago, people weren't doing TikTok, or 18 months ago, people weren't doing TikTok.
I know, right?
Now there's specialty divisions in TikTok, so it's just like, it's ever learning and just making sure that you're up to date with the market and know exactly kind of who's leading it. But again, at the end of the day, we want to be market leaders in what we do. So
you've done a few of these interviews now. I know there would be questions that you get repeatedly. The classic one is just questions about footy. I'm curious, this is an opportunity now for me to ask you, what's a question you wish people asked you more about when doing these interviews? Like a topic that you feel like you could talk about for half an hour. Like we had a photographer in a while ago and he talked about personal finance for like 45 minutes.
What would I talk about? Well, it's got nothing really relevant to what I'm doing, but I love UFC. I love boxing, so I just love kind of, that aspect. I could sit there all day, talk about that stuff.
So you must have like a UFC fight pass and you must watch it.
Oh yeah, I've got UFC fight pass. I watch everything on YouTube to do with UFC. I just think it's interesting. I just think, you're looking at people that train so hard for a specific cause, and it's just, you look at all other sports, and I think from a UFC point of view, you just see guys that literally, are doing everything for their livelihood. So there's no real, and from, I guess the thing I can relate to it is the training side of things as well. Not that I do anything like them, but just, training in a professional environment and seeing what it takes to get yourself to a level and then compete. So then you've got that competitiveness, the competitive element of what they do, but theirs compared to what I did at footy is just on a whole nother level. So it's just awesome to see the mindset, how people adapt.
There's some amazing theatre about it.
And I like that part of it too.
Pardon?
I like that part of it.
I love that part. I've always been, my mind was always blown when I learnt that, the UFC was not owned by Dana White. It was owned by WME, which is an agent business. And I was always fascinated by, wow. So you can get into owning assets in this space and doing cool things, which are very unique. And Conor McGregor's the OG when it comes to promotion. I actually got fed a clip I was on Facebook for the first time in a while the other day, and I was on the video section, and the first thing that came up was Conor's fight with Cowboy Cerrone. I think it was a couple months ago or something like that.
Cowboy Cerrone, it was Jan 2020.
Fucking beat him in 40 seconds, man. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing. Like you said, the theatre of it's unbelievable.
And he's old,
Yeah, I know. He's 32. I think he's 32. Yeah. But yeah, it's exciting that you can, that WME can delve into different angles or different divisions. And that's, I guess, if you think back to what your question was before, what's impressive, you look at IMG and WME and what they've done. They started off with the talent side of things, now in production. They're in, they're a whole range of different things. So I think that's really cool. The whole UFC story in general is amazing, how Dana and the Fertitta brothers basically bought it for, I think, a few mil. And then they pumped in, I think it was like 30 or 40 mil, and it was about to go bankrupt. And then they started the Ultimate Fighter, which was a TV show about, contenders making it to the end, almost like a Big Brother setup, but with fighting. And then that's what, kickstarted their ratings. And then now, they sold, I think it was 4.2 billion or something just
like
recently, or they sold a portion of the business for that. So you look at that whole story, it's just,
it's
amazing.
It's
insane. And then, Dana, just looking at, what he's done and how much of a cult figure he is really cool to see too.
I would say that there is a local brand that Jacob introduced me to that I think has gotten into that, and was a Unified Group. Yeah, so they originally started as sort of like a metal band sort of promoter and got into all areas of like record producing. They do events. Like I think they also own like parts of the, Mr. Yum. Like you got to go check in and menus.
Every time you check in now, it's Mr. Yum.
Yeah, like if you the menus and stuff like that. So they're a really fascinating business. We've tried to interview the founder, and I know he's a busy guy. So I'd say that brands like that or businesses like that, the ones that intrigue me is when they've gotten into other little things as well as, just managing people, of course. All right, rapid fire questions to finish things off. What's the morning and evening routine look like?
Morning, evening routine. I wouldn't say I got anything necessarily set in stone. I've had things in the past. Like obviously, when I played football, I, had a proper routine. Now, and then when I finished, I try to keep a routine. But now it's kind of, I wake up at a decent hour, 7:30, and then I either train in the morning or evening. So I think nothing's set in stone, but I usually try to do exercise either morning or night.
Okay. And any particular exercise you're leaning to at the moment? Weights,
tennis.
running?
I love tennis. Yeah.
Okay.
I never played when I was younger, but me and my 3 closest friends were very competitive people. We've got a really good competitive friendship at the moment, and we all play tennis. So
even during winter. During winter as well.
During winter, yeah. Well, the Melbourne Park, I've got the indoor court.
Okay,
yeah.
Of course. All right, best purchase under $200.
Best purchase under $200.
Could be a food item, could be a gadget, could be an experience.
Actually, I have to go with YouTube Premium. You don't see ads.
I know.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's so good.
So I used to watch ads, and I was just like, I got Netflix, got Stan, got KO, all them, and I don't have YouTube Premium.
When did you convert out of interest?
Oh, like
recently?
Nah, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
For me, it was during COVID. I reckon late last year, and I was like, because they were smashing people with ads. Like you would watch because they started doing mid rolls as well as pre rolls and end rolls.
That's what got me. Like I would have sometimes 3.
I had videos like because I was watching 20-minute videos and there would be 10 ads and I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't deal with this.
Yeah, I also see it from the other point of view as well, and I kind of like.
I totally get why they do it
exactly.
and why they had to do it because they had so many brands pull out because of COVID.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just. It's so worth the $20 or whatever it is per month. I think it's like $19.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's definitely
worth it. All right, last question for you. If you were to pick a podcast, doco, or movie that you've watched in the last year that you'd highly recommend to people, what would it be?
Oh wow, podcast doco. It's a tough one. That one.
I'll give you a sample of one that I really enjoyed. Was the Michael Jordan doco came out probably around this time last year.
I'm a LeBron fan, so I started playing basketball because I loved Jordan when I was younger, but I just love LeBron, man. Did you see his game yesterday? Hit the game winner.
I'm not a massive basketball guy, but growing up in the 90s and having the name Jordan, with Michaelides as the last name, everyone's like, oh, Michael Jordan, and I just had this affinity for Michael Jordan.
Yeah, no, that was. I think that was really good, really well put together. But I'd probably say maybe the Conor one. The Conor one's really cool.
Okay.
Conor McGregor, have you seen it?
Yeah.
They've got footage of him before he even fought in the UFC. So
I know.
They obviously knew he was going to be, when he didn't have tats or anything, so they must have known he was going to be
yeah, and I was trying to think, like, they was filming him when he was sort of living in that, not commission flat, but just the shithole in Ireland.
Yeah.
And he sort of had, like, he was so young, he had, like, acne scarring or something like that. He had no tats. He had, like, a shaved head. He looks like shit. But it's quite amazing to see the mentality and belief that he had at that age.
Yeah, he hasn't changed much. It's good to see. So probably that one, I would say.
Okay. Tommy, thank you so much for coming in. Where can people find you and ZOOZ Group on the interwebs?
Yeah, so I mean, on Instagram, ZOOZ Group, or on mine, I got obviously Tommy Bugg is in Instagram, so you can see there, or zoozglobal.com.
Okay. Tommy, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. If you do like it, please subscribe, and of course, like if you're watching the YouTube video as well. We'd really appreciate that. You can also find our Clips channel in the description. For audio, if you're not already listening, you can search Uncommon on Pocket Cast, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts quite easily. For video, if you're not watching, you can search Uncommon on YouTube. And for behind the scenes takes and clips on social media, then definitely check out @uncommon_show on Instagram. But otherwise, look, thanks so much for tuning in. And until next time, thanks for listening.